Hi, our guest today is Steve Trettel, who wears a lot of hats in Milford, but today he's here in his capacity as chairman of the Middle School Reuse Committee. Welcome, Steve.
Welcome,
Thanks,
Steve.
Kevin.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
So let's give some background to folks. We're building a new woodland school, and the thought behind the Middle School Reuse Committee is that actually when the new school is built and anticipating the school committee declaring the current middle school lease as surplus, hopefully your committee will have come forward with a recommendation on what to do with it. Is that the premise?
That's the premise.
Okay.
Wow.
So what have you been doing since you were formed? Is it last summer or last spring?
Well, let me start by just explaining to you what the mission of the committee is.
Okay.
Okay, because it's pretty clear when you think about it. You know, the committee's mission is to evaluate the physical condition of the building and determine what, if anything, is required to stabilize and maintain it in terms of both operational and capital improvements. So I want to know exactly what the physical condition is that and what's going to cost to run it and keep it for the future. The second part of the mission is to evaluate the viability and marketability of four general options, and they are sell it, the town holds it and leases it, it's used exclusively by the town for their own purposes, or some combination of leasing and reuse.
Okay.
So that's our mission.
Now, the committee was formed last summer?
Around the end of summer last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically you've been in business about a half year.
About a half year.
And what's happened since then?
Well, we focused so far on the first part of this, which is the evaluation of the building. And so we are working. We first thought we had to go out and hire a whole bunch of different consultants, one for the HVAC, one
Right.
for the structure, and so forth. And we found this quasi-public-private agency called Mass Development. And what they do is they help municipalities in situations like this to redevelop downtown areas, make plans for the future for the towns,
Right.
all kinds of stuff. And what they do is they have consultants already signed up that do all kinds of different things, from marketing to evaluation to very technical things like evaluation of the building.
Okay.
So since then, we have been working with them to put together a proposal that, of course, puts us within the means that we have for what was appropriated at town meeting.
Which is, I think, 30,000 or 40?
It was 40,000.
40,000.
40,000. And at today's prices for consultants, that's not very much money.
So what have we learned? We all should be consultants.
Wow, that's a good idea.
Well, I am one myself, so I can give you first-hand
Oh, wow.
information about
In this particular area, or no, a different area?
civil engineering.
Ah.
Yeah. So, well, that works to the town's benefit because I know all the tricks and where the bodies are buried and so forth in their proposals.
Right, you can read the language.
Yeah.
As I always tell people, get a fixed price, not by the hour.
So, basically, we've been one of the biggest things that we've been doing is negotiating a proposal, and we've been through 3 iterations so far with them, and that's okay because we do have the time. We don't need to turn in our report until it's time for the building to be turned around, and that
Which
is
could be
2016, fall of 2016.
So you
Right.
have plenty of time.
We do. we do, and so we can get it right. It's not just living within our means of the proposal, but it's getting the kind of things that we want out of it, the kind of evaluation that we want. So we're coming down to the wire to the final proposal, I think, and I think we will be able to turn them loose probably sometime in April.
Oh, wow. That's not too far off.
And what's their estimated time frame for their study?
For their study, probably between 1 and 2 months. Because their study includes not just the evaluation of the building. We could have got that from a variety of consultants that we would have picked out ourselves, but they're also going to do a full evaluation of the market. What market is out there for a building of this nature? And the value, besides us knowing what it's going to cost to maintain this building and keep it from deteriorating, we're going to have the value of having them evaluated the market for private use, let's say for office space.
So they're going to assess it for all the various possible uses.
various-
Oh,
You know,
that's,
we keep hearing junior college, we hear all sorts of things.
All of those are on the table,
Right,
as well as community use,
right. And I know there's a lot of concern about losing the gym and having that go to an outside agency, that a lot of people want the gym kept for town use.
Well, let me tell you, there's another facet of this now, okay? That's been our focus, but we've broken down the organization into various subcommittees.
Oh, okay.
And first of all, let me say, we have some very learned and intelligent people on that, and experienced people on the committee. And can I run through that?
Oh, absolutely,
At a time?
please.
Yeah. First of all, the financial subcommittee. Mark Shane is the chairperson of that.
Chairman of the FinCom in town, so.
Yes, yes. And so his job is to, work with the consultants as far as, what it needs to keep the building operational and maintained, but also he works with the rest of the subcommittees for when they have financial matters to consider. And you'll see how that works in. Community use, okay? Lou Salazzi, former town administrator.
And former head of the school community use program.
Yeah.
So,
And Len Marcone, who is the
right.
current director.
Right.
director of community use.
That's a
of town
powerhouse
buildings,
team.
right? And then Deborah Small is there as a citizen. Okay.
Good.
All right. So the third one is engineering assessments and proposals, and that is myself and Rob Mitchell, who is a mechanical engineer, quite adept mechanical engineer, and Bill Sanborn, a citizen.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right.
And then regulation and impacts, primarily, planning, from coming at it from the planning board's perspective, and zoning regulations, okay? And Joe Calagione.
From the
is
planning board.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Also a civil engineer.
Also a civil engineer and chairperson of the zoning board. And Ed Bertorelli as a citizen. So
Okay.
you see, we have technical guys and we have citizens with them to give that perspective as well,
A good mix.
And then, listen to what we got for school issues, Scott Harrison, chairperson
Of the school
of
committee.
the school committee, and Bob Tremblay,
The
Oh, wow.
superintendent.
lieutenant. Okay? And then finally, administration. This is where we're going to look for the town's input as to what the town needs, and that's Rick Villani.
Who's
Oh,
the town
okay.
administrators.
Yep, and
Okay.
Bill Buckley is there as a representative of the selectmen.
Oh, that's great.
So this is,
I'd say you've got a well-rounded committee.
and we've broken it down into those subcommittees so that we can, once we get the basic data from our consultants, then we will turn all these committees loose, and they'll bring forward, what the town needs for that building, or what the engineering implications to maintain that building would be, or
what the cost is to get it up to speed.
yes.
All the information
All
you need
the
to make good,
information.
intelligent decisions. Good.
And finally, our job is to report back to the selectmen what the various possible uses of that are, the pros and cons of each, the costs of each, either revenue or expense.
That's right.
Right? And what we see as the pros and cons values of doing it that way. And that's really the end of our mission. But we may, in fact, while we're at it, find out, this is all theory about what the market is, so we might do a little testing of the market to see if it reflects reality, because we have the
Right.
time.
Right.
Yeah, it seems every official I talk to has a different opinion of what should happen to
Of
the
course.
building.
And,
Well, opinions are generated from limited vision and knowledge.
Yeah.
And once you bring to the table the information that covers all the bases, then a much more informed decision can be made that benefits everybody.
the
best
challenge, of course, is getting there, because
Well.
this is like herding cats,
Yes. Well, everybody's got their own opinion, so they're
Yeah.
going to, but what
Sure.
I
Well,
think
what you do is you bring all the various agendas to the table.
and
But-
let them debate them.
Yeah, but
Nothing is off the table.
Right.
it seems like you have the right mix of people in the right amount of time.
Yeah,
Nobody's asking you to do this in 6 weeks,
yes,
and that gives you the time needed to do a thorough study
exactly.
and evaluate it. I think having a year and a half to 2 years is a good time period. So many people say, well, I need this info in 2 weeks, and it can't be done.
Well, the other thing that's most important is you have people in significant positions in every committee that that represent a broad base of opinions.
And if I might add, but we also put them together on the subcommittees with
Right.
citizens.
Right. So what happens is now you're going to get a good mix,
Yeah,
and I would suspect there'll be good, strong debate on all sides, and then there'll be an informed position taken.
I'm
which is-
sure there's gonna be questions as, what's this gonna do to my tax rate?
Oh, well, that's always a standard question. What's it going to be to do to the tax
Yeah,
rate?
and that's the perspective the citizens bring. Oh, but also, they bring the perspective of what's it gonna do for me in terms of being a value to me in the town?
What does it bring to the
Yeah.
town?
Well,
Yeah.
let's not ignore the fact that the location of the building is important. It anchors one end of the downtown, almost. I mean, if you want to think of just beyond it on that side is really a Dunkin' Donuts, the bike trail, and then there's a dentist's office being built where the 4 or 5 houses were torn down.
Yeah,
Then you're at the municipal parking lot. But for all intents and purposes, it's the major anchor of that side of downtown. It doesn't have a lot of parking next to it, but it's also, for a lot of people, their memories. When it was Milford Catholic, I'm sorry, it was the Catholic high school, or was it also elementary at the time?
there was the Granite Building, of course, which
Yes.
consigli preserved, which
Right.
is, have you been through that building?
Yes,
Oh,
I have.
Man, it's just beautiful.
So, but you have it as an anchor point, and it's sort of a central location. And so what does go there is important to people.
Well, it also
Well, I'm
has,
surprised you mentioned the anchor thing, because that was in my head. At one end, we will have this as an anchor. The other end, we have the hospital,
right, yes.
and so we can develop between.
Well, I think it has the opportunity of reinvigorating this downtown. I think
Exactly.
Well, you also hear, downtown could use something major. Well, there's a building that's bigger than a storefront.
For sure.
When you hear people in town hall, oh, would love to get that for offices, and would love to get that for this.
Well, everybody's in their own mind is going to try and find some use that benefits them. But I think what the committee's going to do is bring together what's in the best interest of the community.
Yes.
And what will bring the best interest of the community to the table, and also move that agenda forward. So I think the group that you mentioned is absolutely fantastic, because they're
As
going
well
to
as
bring
what
up.
does it cost to get me there?
Well,
Yes.
that's a significant piece of the puzzle, and having a good evaluation done by a good consultant will give you the piece of the puzzle that's most important. That's probably going to drive the train, so to speak. That's the one that's going to motivate everybody. Okay, if we do this, we can make money. If we do this, we lose money. So.
We do have some big challenges there,
Oh,
though.
absolutely.
And the biggest one is parking.
That seems to
And,
always be a challenge for every downtown is parking,
yeah.
especially in New England,
So-
because New England wasn't built. The New England small communities weren't built with parking in mind.
Yes. So, let's
Well, why
say,
not, Al?
let's say one of the options is a community college,
That'd be
branch
nice.
moving in. Wouldn't that be nice for citizens in this town to
Oh, that'd
have
be great.
something right here in town they could work and then and just come right here without traveling hours?
Well, that
to
would,
a
I
school?
think my own personal opinion is that would singly invigorate the downtown.
However, now you talk about that, where are you going to park the cars?
That's a good
Right?
point, good
You know,
question.
That's why I say that's one of the key issues is the parking, no matter what it is.
Well, unless
you know.
if people,
Office space.
well, to the
know?
parking thing, if you go to Framingham State or Worcester State, or even Quinsigamond, you don't park in front of your classroom building and then just walk inside. Normally, you're on a lot that's several blocks away, and you walk.
But you look, what's several blocks away? There's
Not a
no
whole
open
lot.
space.
Not a
Well,
whole
but-
lot.
But that's something to be
Yeah.
thought of.
Yes, sure, and that's what the committee's going to consider.
If something needed to be built and you went several blocks away, you're not necessarily putting a hole in the downtown.
Well, there is the municipal parking lot is not too far away.
Yeah,
That's not a long hike, that's a short distance. There's some other space, not super close, but close enough that you could park in. Then there's parking along downtown. So, generally speaking, and classes would be probably more in the evening. So from a college standpoint, it's still a small, there's some benefits, but there are
but
other.
that's only one.
That's
you know.
only one use.
There's a subcommittee to evaluate the town's needs, for additional office space. But there is one fact that I think that is a pretty sure thing, and that is the gymnasium.
Which I brought
know,
up.
And that's something that I think in all these different schemes that we will want to keep for the town, I walked through there and it is really in good shape. I mean, super good shape.
Yeah, what I've heard is
Yeah.
we can't give that away. First of all, everybody's using it now, and
Yep.
it would be a loss to give it away. And
Yeah.
it's not that hard in your various scenarios to keep it.
No, it's not, because the building lends itself. That's on the tail end of the building on an angle, and you could, and it has a separate entrance too, by the
So
way.
you could separate other uses from
Mhm.
that.
Yes,
Well, it goes to the reinvigoration of that area of the town anyway, because you're rebuilding or modifying the youth center,
Yep.
which is fantastic. And then this would be, reinvigorating that area. So I mean, it really, it lends itself to bringing people back to the core center of the town, I think.
we're on the cusp of something that could be really important.
Significant.
Yeah,
I
and,
think
and
so.
the right use, depending on bringing people, whether it's community college, office space, retail, would tend to draw people to other parts of the downtown.
Mhm.
What I've heard people say is a community college means there'd be, more restaurants or traffic to restaurants
I
on
don't
Main
know,
Street.
some developer might come in and say, gee, it'd be great for condos, we solve the parking problem.
Yeah, I suppose that's one solution. That's one solution.
Well, I
Or-
think
or if
whatever-
somebody could
whatever
come in
goes
and
there-
say, this may be a nice place for assisted living, like the Hopedale thing,
Well, whatever
But,
goes there will have requirements that aren't there today.
Right.
Whether it's
Yes.
parking or something.
Well, there may be some zoning issues too that
Of course.
drop on the table that no one
That's
anticipated
why
that may
we
limit.
got Joe Calagione in
Right.
there.
So the good news is you have all the people
Yeah.
that can evaluate whatever's setting on the table and say, well, gee, that'd work, except for we'd have to do some rezoning there, or whatever it is. So it's really, you've got all the right people in the right places.
We do, and I'm so pleased about that, and I'm so pleased that the quality of the people
Oh,
that are
without
on here,
question.
you know.
Very good,
Yeah.
very good.
Bob Tremblay is already, putting some tentacles out to some other possible uses.
School,
Not school, not internal
community
school,
college
like
type
a
uses.
community college or
Well, there was a discussion sometime
charter
back.
school.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, that'd be, charter schools are big. But there was a discussion sometime back about a community college coming to the area, and then that got put on the
Well,
table.
they're not gonna build brick and mortar things anymore. They're not.
Right,
It's too
They're,
expensive
they're,
for them.
they're heading in a different direction.
right.
However, if there's a facility already and they can move right in and lease it,
Yeah.
you know, they're
Well-
not stuck with a big bill for a brick and mortar structure.
Well, you can't eliminate brick and mortar entirely. There still is a requirement for some, but instead of building, as you say, use a structure that's already existing.
Yeah.
Without question, there's a clear advantage to that.
But I'm saying, you know, not that they would purchase it, I doubt very much. Lease it, you know, and the town gets income, okay? Or if we sell it to the private sector, the town's gonna get.
X
a
number
net-
of dozen.
Yeah,
Annual income
Annual
from selling
income,
it,
yeah.
and then tax revenue.
yeah,
Which has been, oh, there you go, that magic word, taxes.
yeah.
The magic words.
Yep, put it on the tax rolls. But the other thought is, it is a very nice structure architecturally.
Yeah,
And
I
there
would- I
is-
would hate to see that building torn down.
And there are some significant benefits to that, because it seems like just recently, or in the last few years, people are beginning to consider that why are we tearing down the history of the communities?
Yeah,
Let's keep that, because that's part of the
in
history.
keeping with the Armory. you know?
Right.
Right, and I always get a kick out of it
In
because,
keeping with Stacy.
yeah,
Right.
I get a kick out of it because I don't know if people can read Latin, but given all the attention to not having the word God on anything related to municipal, you know, with the ACLU and everything, I laugh because every time you drive by it in Latin, it says for God and for country on the
And
building.
country. Don't forget, and country too.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
for
well
God,
balanced.
for country, and my personal chuckle out of that is I wonder if all the people realize that's what it says. You know, Latin isn't exactly taught
Yeah.
these days
Yeah,
widely enough, but I just, for the, not just the location, but as you said, it's a very nice looking building. I would hate to see just a gap there if somebody decided to tear it down.
Oh,
It deserves to be reused.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
right.
think that's very a remote possibility,
Yeah, I hope so.
because, you know, I've walked through the thing several times, and my gosh, his name escapes me. Who's the fellow that's in charge of all the school committee, the school buildings?
Is that Quinn?
Yes, Mr. Quinn. Well, what a,
Is it Rob Quinn?
yes, it's Rob Quinn, and boy, does he have a handle on things. You know, he's just not sitting in an office someplace pushing paper. He knows the systems, he knows the boilers, he knows the roof, he knows what went in for the windows. What a resource he is.
Yeah.
And he cares about the buildings, and he particularly likes this building. And as I walked through with him, and he pointed out different things, that building is pretty darn good. It is in pretty good structural shape.
It is.
It's, you know, the roof is 10 years old, that's all.
That's
okay?
not bad.
That's not bad. The boilers are less than that.
Oh, wow.
Well, there was money spent as part of the overall school construction on all the school buildings. There was money spent rehabbing that, so it did
Yeah.
get a new roof and boilers.
Yep. And when you look at the physical structure of it, you know, it's got terrazzo floors.
Which,
And there aren't many of those around
There aren't
anymore.
too
which as
many
you and I
left,
were discussing
you know?
before the show, you
Yeah,
can't make anymore.
You can't buy that anymore. And masonry walls are in really good shape. you
Oh,
know?
that, yeah.
It's not just drywall.
Wow.
It's built really solidly,
Mm.
and the gym is gorgeous.
Well, I
So-
think I personally agree with both of you that it'd be terrible to see that building torn down.
Yeah, I don't think,
I
I'm
don't-
glad that option's
that's not
almost
even
off the
going to be
table.
on our pros and
Great,
cons.
that's great.
I'm glad,
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
way. But again, absent knowledge, people may wonder what's going on, which
Yeah.
is why, we invited you on
Yeah,
the show,
appreciate that, yeah.
is what's going on for the person who doesn't go to your meetings?
Yeah,
What's going on with it?
And,
Yeah.
and the advantage, the good thing is that now people will see that, oh, wow, there's some significant people involved in this who really know what's going on and who can take us to a place, the best place we should be.
and we meet every month, committee meets every month, and the subcommittees have their own tasks to pursue.
Right.
So, once the consultant's work is done, we can really turn loose the subcommittees.
I was going
To
to say,
do their
that
work.
brings you to a whole new level of
Yep.
where you've been.
It's going to be quite the headache to put this all on one spreadsheet, but
Oh, well, it'll be challenging, but I would guess you'd be able to do that.
Gee,
There's
but-
some pretty good minds on the.
Gee, have I ever seen you organize large groups of information about facts on a building project? Where have I ever
think
seen
I
that?
have once, yeah.
And that, my comments meant for those who
Yeah.
don't know, Steve did co-lead the citizens from Milford
Co-lead,
in the,
yeah, with John Seaver.
in opposing the casino. So,
Mhm.
imagine if you had 2 years to examine the casino proposals instead of a couple of weeks.
Wow. Imagine if the town did.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought, huh? Because
my
then they get the real scoop, because they
well,
couldn't
well.
keep hiding the facts.
Well, my comment on that was, and I know Mr. Nunes is now deceased, but if only instead of spending 3 years away from Milford, you know, where he dropped in and explained the idea and disappeared for 3 years, if he had spent those 3 years investigating all the things that later needed to be looked at, you guys might have had a harder time opposing the casino.
Possibly.
But in any event, let's get back to middle school.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's old news.
that's all. news.
That's old news. That's old news. What do you see as the most significant hurdle that you have to cross?
I think the first part of it, which is the evaluation of the building, that's black and white. That's science, that's engineering, and I know we're going to have a really good, by the time we're done going back and forth and negotiating this proposal, we're going to get some good information out of that. The marketing piece of it, you know, it's theory, you know. You don't know for sure, because you can have all these evaluations, and this might work, and this might work, and this is, here's the statistics on what's saleable, what isn't. But until, let's take the private sector piece, some developers step forward with a real interest, okay, you don't know whether that really is, you know, marketable.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, being an engineer, you're looking, you know, you look at things in the cold light of day.
Yes.
That's what I call you. It's either black or white. It's
Yes.
either A or B. It's not, there's that gray area doesn't exist.
That's where the marketing.
And that's the marketing spot. That's in
Yeah.
that gray area.
Yeah.
So I understand that piece of it. I mean,
Yeah.
as being an engineer, that's always the hard part to cope with.
Yeah.
So you see that being the biggest hurdle is that piece of the puzzle?
Yeah, we can evaluate the facts, but what we can't evaluate is the marketplace for this, the real estate market for this. And but what we're hoping that working with mass development, that we're going to get some. And if I, you know, in discussing them with them, it's not just a marketing report we're going to get from them. They also have lots of private developers that they have contacts with.
They can give you some assessment on that.
Or come on in and let's talk.
Okay.
You know, so that we could give, in the end, when we submit our report to the selectmen, we can give them some real possibilities, not just theory.
You might find too, there are local people that are interested in that possibility of developing it.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we're out of time, Steve, so thanks for coming.
Okay. Well,
Thank
You
you.
wondered
for-
if we'd fill up the time on
I
talking
did.
about something so
Oh.
dry?
I was concerned that this was going to be boring things.
Never boring.
Oh, never boring.
No.
Never boring. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for
and
coming.
Okay.
Can we get you back again at some point during the
You
reporting
bet.
cycle?
I'd say a good time would be after the consultant's report comes in.
Okay, we'll give you a couple of months after that
Yep.
to go through it too. We'll get you back
Yep.
and do another update.
Very good.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
No.